this video, we want to talk about Nancy Drew and looking at her through the lens of gender, both in how the book is positioning femininity as a construct, but also masculinity as a construct. In terms of femininity, Nancy can be viewed through many lenses. As explained by Betsy Caprio, she says that Nancy Drew has been hailed as an early feminist model, someone willing to take risks and get out of her own jams rather than depending on males for support and rescue. She's also been criticized for the opposite as well, an anti-feminist, a pampered suburban princess whose only liberation is liberation from reality. She's been psychoanalyzed, with more than one critic discussing her relationship with her father, Carson Drew, through the lens of electric complexes and Nancy's missing mother. She's been ridiculed as Little Miss Perfect and a mindless wasp, a paper doll. She's been banned by librarians and educators protesting what they'll call assembly line books, but also promoted by other librarians and educators in favor of any decent printed material that starts children reading and writing. So Nancy has been seen as both a formative girl power icon as well as a squeaky clean, middle-class conservative icon. Though generally speaking, Nancy has been depicted as a strong female character and a positive female role model reflective of the time period. However, some critics feel that Nancy is too idealized. Peggy Orenstein writes that school-age girls overwhelmingly reported a paralyzing pressure to be perfect, not only to get straight A's and be the student body president, editor of the newspaper, captain of the swim team, but also be kind and caring and please everyone, be very thin, and dress right. In a lot of ways, Nancy fulfills a number of expectations for behavior of young women in the early 20th century, more so than even was expected of young people at the time without constant supervision and discipline, which is important to note, something that Nancy does not receive. Likewise, as Bobby Ann Mason puts it, not only is Nancy perfect, but she possesses the ideal qualities of each age and sex: child, girl, teenager, boy, and adult. She has made a daring stride into adulthood. She also trespasses into male territory. And Nancy's two sidekicks, which do not show up in The Secret of the Old Clock but become mainstays very shortly thereafter. Her sidekicks, the squeamish Bess and tomboy George, emphasizes this ambivalence. Nancy sort of falling in between that on the femininity spectrum. Bess Marvin is dainty and feminine, and George Fane, her cousin, is boyish and says hypers a lot. George wears her hair short and scoffs at Bess's romantic ideas. However, Kate Harper claims that Nancy Drew is a fascinating contradiction of adolescence. She maintains a perfect image while constantly engaging in behavior that would be classified by Hall, reformers, and parents in the 1930s as delinquent. She doesn't smoke or drink or stay out late with boys and party, but she certainly participates in some activities that would be considered delinquent for young girls at the time. Harper argues that Nancy's absence of sexual interest or activity is integral in protecting her from delinquency status, as sexual activity is the one realm of delinquency that really counts for adolescent girls. However, Keene goes to great lengths. Keene goes to great lengths to describe Nancy as attractive and appealing. So she is, in at least that way, sexualized. But in terms of the way masculinity is being presented in these books, you sort of have a different approach. Ilana Nash argues in her book, American Sweethearts, Teenage Girls in 20th Century Popular Culture, that, quote, the dichotomy of the authoritarian adult male and the subordinate teenage girl, a dual other by nature of her youth and gender, repeatedly was utilized to reestablish and reinforce masculine authority and wisdom, often as a comfort to a society that believed a dismantling of the patriarchal authority structure would lead to social instability and vulnerability. Many have argued this is largely why Adams's rewriting of these books in 1959 was used as a way to reestablish that patriarchal structure. Nash argues that literary Nancy does not fall into this trap, but as she was transferred to film, at least, these ideals were further reinstated for the comfort of a perceived shift in audience. We see more of a mutual respect and partnership between Nancy and her father. However, Kate Harper argues that Nancy remains unseparated from her gender roles and sexuality in the household. She claims that the party responsible for Nancy's perfect domestic management remains a mystery without a mother, and her talents appear unrehearsed and natural. Nancy's role in the Drew household resembles that of a housewife. In addition to managing the household, Nancy also attends parties and performs required social duties. Likewise, Harper points out that being a girl is sometimes a detriment to her in subtle but predictable ways. Her father, the authorities, and the criminals often note that her achievements are exceptional for a girl. And Carson Drew's praise of Nancy's detective skills and logical thinking is frequently accompanied by astonishment. Now, all of these essays that I am quoting from are naturally drawing from Nancy Drew as a series. So maybe all of these qualities aren't readily apparent yet in merely The Secret of the Old Clock, but I think we still get a lot of hints along the way. But yet, Carolyn G. Heilbrunn points out that Nancy has no mother. There's no female mentor from the patriarchy to tell her to cool it, be nice, let the boys win, don't say what you mean. Mothers have long been and were in Nancy Drew's days and before those who prepare their daughters to take their proper place in the patriarchy, which is why so many novels with interesting women heroes, the female heroes are motherless.